There we go.
Okay. Okie dokie. So, just so everyone knows, I've got the presentation on the screen and you're all on this screen. So if it looks like I'm not looking at you, it's because I've got two screens. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to Vocal Health and Safety for Music Teachers, a webinar designed for music teachers who are at risk of damaging their voices at work. So for those of you who have not met me before, my name is Franca Locandro, and something you may not know about me is that 10 years ago, I found myself about to begin my first year of teaching in a real school. And I was really, really excited because I wanted to be one of those music teachers that, you know, it inspires kids to really love music and really, really chase after their dreams. However, within my first year of full-time teaching, I started experiencing the signs and symptoms of vocal fatigue and burnout. I was losing my voice frequently. I had a sore throat after speaking. It had a husky sound to it, and I had this persistent lump in the throat feeling. This quickly took all of the joy out of teaching. It hurt to talk. I couldn't control my classes and choirs, and I was constantly trying to avoid any situation at all outside of work where I'd have to talk because I only had a limited amount of voice and I needed to save that for, you know, teaching and singing. About 8 years ago, after ignoring the issue for about 2 years, I got to the point where I thought I might have to give up teaching entirely. And not just teaching, I thought I would have to quit singing, which was the one thing in the world that gave me more joy than anything else. I decided it was time to do something about my little problem. So I went to see an ENT and a speech pathologist and a vocal coach. And I learnt that I had a nerve weakness in one of my vocal folds, which was causing a lot of compensatory muscle tension and pain due to voice overuse. I was conducting about 7 choirs a week, and I was talking all day, every day. I had not one moment to rest during the week. But luckily, none of that was irreversible yet. About 6 years ago, after working long and hard to heal my voice, I began the voracious consumption of information about the anatomy and physiology of the voice. I read everything I could get my hands on, and I really just wanted to know how to prevent that happening to my voice again. And I also wanted to learn knowledge that I could pass down to my students as well. I developed a huge passion for it and then began a master's in speech pathology. During that time, I discovered that my story was not unique. It wasn't even unusual. During the last few years, I've spoken to hundreds of people and read so many studies that have pointed out just one thing. This issue is common. It is so common, in fact, that vocal damage is considered to be an occupational hazard for teachers. It affects their careers, their personal lives, and their mental and physical well-being. And that is exactly why I've decided to dedicate my life to helping people who work in high voice use professions learn how to use their voices safely and correctly to reduce the risk of vocal damage during their careers. So I've been a vocal coach for about 13 years now, and I've been teaching in schools for about 10. So I've had the privilege of helping so many people use their voices more efficiently and effectively, and have also encountered a lot of people with vocal problems. During that time, I discovered that 51.2% of teachers experience vocal damage at some point in their career. Music teachers are at higher risk of developing a voice disorder than normal teachers are, and this is just due to speaking over large groups of students, often in a room with lots of noisy instruments and really poor ventilation. Vocal damage is cumulative. It doesn't just show up one day out of nowhere. For me, it was a whole year of vocal misuse. For some people, it takes 20 years of vocal misuse. However, no one escapes it. If you're using your voice incorrectly, it will catch up to you. And a lot of the time, by the time you feel the effects, the damage is already done because the vocal folds themselves don't really have many nerve endings, many sensory nerves there. So you can't actually tell when you're hurting your voice until the damage has spread. Vocal damage is detrimental to work effectiveness, mental and physical well-being, and it also unfortunately affects the experiences of your students. It affects how much they learn. and it affects the intelligibility of your speech. So a lot of the time it really, really does have flow-on effects to students, unfortunately. People experiencing vocal damage are more likely to miss days of work. They're more likely to have to change occupations or be impacted financially because of vocal damage. Studies show that about 20.6% of teachers that have voice disorders have missed at least one day of work because of it, and they were significantly more likely than the general population to have to change professions because of it. Most people don't actually speak up until it's too late, until they've damaged their voices. Your voice is like your pens, like your instruments, your whiteboard markers, your textbooks. It's like your brain. It's a tool of your trade. So unlike a whiteboard marker or a reed or a piano key, if you wreck your voice, you can't just go out and buy a new one. And at the moment, the current focus with regards to vocal damage is on treating voice disorders as they arise. That's problematic because the eradication of vocal injury is actually much harder than preventing it. It's not always 100% effective, and it's much more expensive than prevention is. A speech pathology session can range between 100 and 200. I've paid 400 for one session. So it's really, really expensive to treat. I started my business because I really want to shift the paradigm to prevention. A lot of people out there are offering, remediation once you've hurt your voice, but we really need to shift the paradigm to prevention and reducing the risk of further vocal damage. An example of this is sports players know that stretching before a game or a race reduces the risk of injury. They don't just wait until they get an injury and then stretch it out. So I kind of equate it to that, if that makes sense. And it hurts. Vocal damage is always on your mind. The pain is a constant reminder of the damage you've done through incorrect voice use. And it affects every part of your life. When I had vocal damage, I was speaking to my mum, and I'd have, ouch, why is it hurting? I'd be out for dinner with people. I wouldn't be able to speak properly because I couldn't get any volume. It's always in your mind. So let's have a go at preventing it, shall we? Using the knowledge and techniques you learned tonight, you'll be able to reduce the risks of developing vocal damage by identifying signs and damaging habits that cause it, and using your new knowledge of how the voice works, you'll be able to employ new, healthier vocal habits. So during the next 60 minutes, you will pick up the tools that you can use to prevent damage and safeguard your voice for the future. And provided that you have the time and motivation to implement the strategies in your everyday voice use. You might also discover new ways to use and extend and think about your voice in ways that you may have not known before, which is really cool. So as Kevin said, please mute mics while we're having the presentation, but if you'd like, you can turn your videos on so I can see your smiling faces. And because the number of people attending today, we're going to get through all of the content and then questions at the end, if that's okay. So please write down and save your questions, pop them in the chat if you want. If you don't understand something, please write that down too and ask me to clarify during question time. Some of this stuff does get a little bit technical. However, there are a million ways to skin a cat. There are a million different ways to explain something. And if you don't understand it straight away, there will be a way for me to explain it so that you can understand it. You don't need to be a singer to have an understanding of anatomy to learn any of this stuff. It's targeted specifically for speakers, and everything you need to know you will be learning today. One thing I must tell you though, not everything will work for everyone. So you've got to choose your techniques. You've got to choose your strategies that are going to help you the best. Not everyone wants to give up coffee. Not everyone can, do a full voiced belt. So a lot of these things are, you just pick and choose what works for you. The way to prevent vocal damage is by eliminating dangerous vocal habits and implementing healthy ones. This takes practice. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes mindful voice use. When you're thinking about using your voice, it takes a little while to practice these strategies in. And as we know, human beings are creatures of habit. So let's go and create some healthy habits, shall we? So, how does the voice work, I hear you ask? Well, this is how it works. So here you have a few pictures. So the one that hopefully you can see in my mouse, the one that I'm circling around, these are beautiful, healthy, pearly white vocal folds. This is what happens when you're breathing. They are apart. You've got your vocal folds here, down here is your trachea and your lungs, and across right next to it, these are called your false vocal folds. Remember that word because we're going to be coming back to it. False vocal folds are on the side and a little bit above. Okay, your vocal folds sit at about this point in your neck, in your larynx, and this is what happens when you speak or sing. Your vocal folds are drawn together, and the air from your lungs passes through your vocal folds. They are drawn into a vibration, and that's how they make noise. It's kind of like, you know, a saxophone reed. The reed of the saxophone, you blow air into it, it vibrates, makes sound. Same. You actually have 5 layers of the vocal folds. I think that's on the next slide, actually. Yep, you've got 5 layers of your vocal folds. The outermost layer is called the epithelium, and I'll show you what happens when you speak. I made this little animation out of still pictures. I took photos of each of them and I animated them. So hopefully you can get the point. See, the air comes from below and it draws the vocal folds together, sucks them together, and eventually it's released. Now, while you're speaking or making any sort of noise, the air pressure underneath your closed vocal folds builds up and then it is released. So air pressure is something that we're going to be talking about today as well. So if you can remember that, that would be great. Okay, so the outermost layer here is called the epithelium. That is responsible, you don't need to know the name, but you need to know that it's responsible for ensuring that the vocal folds vibrate smoothly and safely. And it's also responsible for preventing any damage to your precious vocal cords and also healing damage. It has a role in healing any damage you may have sustained as well. Irreparable vocal damage and voice disorders occur when these layers are damaged and they're not given time to heal properly, or the time or the conditions to heal properly. So it kind of creates damage upon damage, kind of like irritating an open wound, if that helps. Okay, today you'll learn the habits that cause vocal damage and also the things that you can do to help your vocal folds recover as quickly as possible to keep them in tip-top shape. The healthiest behaviors will give you the best chance of avoiding vocal damage. So, these are the signs and symptoms of vocal damage. A lot of people experience this. So many people experience this every day and just go, oh, that's just normal, the normal feeling of singing, that's just, or the normal feeling of speaking, that's just what happens to teachers or musicians when we speak. It's not normal. It's a sign of vocal damage. So a lot of these things, especially hoarseness and raspiness, losing your voice. I had a client that she would speak all week as a teacher. She was a grade 1 or 2 teacher, I think, and then she would she'd lose her voice by the end of the week, and she'd recover her voice over the weekend and then start the week again, lose it by the end of the week. This is a sign of vocal damage, and the longer you leave that for, the worse it's going to get, and it gets really hard to treat if you ignore it. Here are a few examples of, hopefully you can hear this. Please let me know if you can't hear it. Here are a few examples of voices that sound like they have vocal damage.
Trying to come up with an idea for a video today. Can't really be anything with singing because obviously I can't sing. There's nothing crazy going on that I wanted to vlog today. I thought it'd be interesting.
Okay, so that is a little bit less bad than the next one I'm going to show you, but that is still a sign of vocal damage. A lot of people love raspy voices, but heads up, that is a damaged voice.
It's good.
But like, it has holes in it. What's up with that? It's not even holy. Like, you don't talk about cheese in the Bible. And like, why do you eat cheese with wine?
So that's a severely damaged voice. And a lot of these signs and symptoms can cause vocal fold nodules if not taken care of. So this is what it sounds like when you have vocal fold nodules.
This is my vocal malfunction. This is why I can't sing at the moment. Hopefully one day I'll recover. That is vocal cord nodules. That's from screaming. So singers, don't scream. It ruins your voice.
Okay, and the next one we have here is loss of voice range or control. There are a lot of instances that I've heard of where someone, you know, especially a female, has a really low husky voice that doesn't sound like it's naturally low and husky. I've got a slide on the next one, on the next slide that has got a little video that will show you what I mean. However, this can be due to vocal damage, and you'll hear the difference in the next slide. So.
Trying to come up.
Okay, everyone, we have our soprano, our alto, and our bass.
Hi, I'm Natalie. You sound like my dad. Boom, boom, there she goes. There she goes.
Okay, it's just a little funny example of what we are talking about. Okay, on to the next slide. Okay, so we've identified the signs and symptoms, and we're now going on to recognizing what habits can cause vocal damage. So these are bad habits that are the likely culprits of vocal damage. Persistent throat clearing. The reason this is a problem is because when your vocal folds are drawn into vibration, when you speak, they're softly drawn into vibration. Persistent throat clearing and coughing are basically a very, very hard close of the vocal folds. You're basically smacking them together. Now, just above your vocal folds, you've got two little spaces that excrete mucus. They excrete phlegm, and they excrete phlegm because they're sensing something is going wrong with the vocal folds. So if you're beating your vocal folds against each other, clearing your throat, they will keep giving you phlegm. They will keep excreting phlegm, and it's a vicious cycle. You cannot get rid of persistent throat clearing phlegm by clearing your throat. So what I recommend instead of a throat clear is a sip of water and a hard swallow, like sip of water, hard swallow. That should get rid of any persistent phlegm. Do it a few times. Coughing. Now, coughing is a very, very important reflex of your body. It's very important for clearing food that may have gone down the wrong tube. However, if your coughing is due to some sort of like a cold or asthma or something like that, I would get that seen to straight away. So if it's cough during a cold, get some cough mixture, cough syrup, and get rid of that cough, because that coughing is going to damage your voice much more than the actual illness itself. Overuse, everybody knows that. Air pressure. This is something that a lot of people find fascinating when I tell them this, because we're all told that more air, more volume, more air, healthier voice. That's not the case. Your vocal folds are the size of your little thumbnail, and your lungs, an adult male is capable of having up to 6 liters of air in his lungs. Adult females, about 5 to 6. So we are pushing, if we take in a huge breath and push all of that out, we're pushing all of that air through something this big. That causes a wind burn effect on the vocal folds and actually causes swelling. So, and swelling, over prolonged swelling over time can cause permanent vocal damage. It can cause nodules. So we want to avoid as much as possible taking in huge gasps of air when we're speaking or singing. Vocal fry. Now, I was reading a study. Obviously, this has been studied to death. Everybody knows about the perceptual effects of vocal fry. Less likely to get a job, less likely in a job interview, more likely perceived as lazy. Everybody knows about those perceptual effects. It affects the intelligibility of your speech, so how well people can understand you. And there is also, I was reading a study recently that found that using vocal fry in your voice, like the creaky voice, speaking like this sometimes, it actually, or just even having a little bit of it at the start of your speech, increases the amount of effort that you need for your habitual speaking voice. So it will increase vocal effort. So that, in a nutshell, is why vocal fry is a very bad habit and something that should not be in your everyday speaking voice. Your speaking voice should be nice and clear, free of vocal fry. So, and also misuse or vocally abusive behaviors. Now, speech pathologists call these following 5 behaviors vocally traumatic behaviors: shouting, loud talking, screaming, vocal noises like imitating car engines, coughing and throat clearing. We've obviously got coughing and throat clearing, but those things are vocally abusive behaviors that can lead to vocal damage. Now, the reason why vocally abusive behaviors are bad for your voice is because of these little guys that I told you about before, these false vocal folds. Now, this is normal speech. That's how I'm speaking now, false vocal folds. And this is what happens to your false vocal folds and your true vocal folds when you are at the footy and you're yelling, ball! That's exactly what happens. And those false vocal folds will come and sit on top of your vocal folds. They will press them down and they will interrupt that smooth vibration that helps you with speech. Prolonged use of that can lead to nodules, can lead to swelling, can lead to all sorts of really horrible things. So please, 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 please do not have that gravelly yell when you're at the footy. That's the reason why those vocally traumatic behaviors are vocally traumatic. Okay, risky business. These are kind of things that are not technically bad habits, but they are, I've found that in clients where I've found, who have particularly bad, stressed out voices, these things are a factor. Stress. There are a number of vocal disorders. They're called psychogenic vocal disorders, and that they are all triggered by stress. They're all triggered by traumatic events. So stress, obviously everybody knows your whole body is connected, and your voice is a true representation of exactly what's going on in your body. We know that emotionally it comes out in your voice. If you're, it's called choked up for a reason. It's very easy for your voice to get out of balance when you're highly stressed. Onset. Now, there are 3 ways we can start voice. One of them is with a H. It's called an aspirate onset. That is rushing a lot of air through your vocal folds at once, creating that wind tunnel effect that if that's chronic, it can create a little bit of swelling on your vocal folds. And that's called glottal onsets. So ow, stuff like that can create, if that's chronic, it can create stressful conditions for your vocal folds. The easiest way to create voice is by using smooth onsets, and that's the least damaging way. So starting your onsets really less harshly can also help you deal with, not getting vocal damage. So moving on. Now, a lot of people ask me what to do when I have hurt my voice or what to do when I am sick, because this is a chronic problem. People that get sick and push through create muscle tension habits. So if you've got laryngitis or something or a cold and you're pushing through and you're just going, no, I've got to go to work. Well, obviously, it's not going to happen now with coronavirus, but I've got to go to work, I've got to teach my choir, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. I actually had an instance once where I'd lost my voice, and it was awards night at the school I was working for, and I had a 100 student choir to conduct. Not only conduct, but rehearse on and off stage and everything like that during the whole day for rehearsal for the awards night that evening. And I could not do that at all. And so, yeah, a lot of people think pushing through is the only way to do it. That will create muscle tension habits they can last much longer after the illness is healed. And they can actually, there's a lot of people that have gone to speech therapists and their chronic voice problem has started when they've had a cold or chronic laryngitis or something like that. And they've got all these muscle tension habits that now have to be released, and it's causing them pain. Now, whispering, everybody thinks that, whispering while I've got a sore voice, why is that bad? How could that be bad? That's obviously, it's very tempting to whisper because it doesn't hurt as much when you've got a sore throat. As you've probably worked out by now, any sort of rush of air that doesn't involve phonation, quick rush of air through your vocal folds that doesn't involve voice is going to create that wind tunnel effect, and it will create swelling on your vocal folds. Okay, anything with menthol is going to have a drying effect on your body, going to have a drying effect on your vocal folds. Cold and flu meds, anything that is meant to dry up mucus will dry up your vocal folds. Your outer layer of your vocal folds, the epithelium, that word that we learned, that is highly, highly, highly dependent on the amount of fluid you have in your body. The amount of hydration directly affects how well that outer layer is doing its job. So if it's not properly hydrated, it can't heal vocal damage. It cannot prevent vocal damage, and it cannot vibrate effectively. So please stay away from anything that's going to be drying. Nasal sprays have an irritant in them. I didn't know this. About a year ago, I had a few sinus issues and used Nasonex. And one of the side effects of Nasonex is that it causes voice irritation. And I'd lost my voice for about a month because I was using Nasonex. Vocal rest, obviously, everybody knows vocal rest is really good when you have the dreaded logie, when you've got a cold. Sleep, hydration, everybody knows this. Get laryngitis treated straight away because laryngitis is the general term medical people give for inflammation of the laryngeal area, inflammation of the larynx. It can be bacterial, it can be viral, or it can be functional. Functional means that you've done it through vocal misuse or overuse. Okay, so it's swelling of the larynx. Obviously, this left picture is laryngitis, and this is lovely, healthy looking vocal folds. So this is obviously a very, very bad problem. Please get that treated. See your doctor straight away if you have laryngitis. Okay, so we won't take questions now. We will, if you do have any questions, please write them down and we will take them at the end. Let's go on to how to deal with hurting your voice. So you've hurt your voice. It happens to everyone, literally happens to everyone, happens to me, and I am hypervigilant. So hurting your voice, the easiest way to deal with hurting your voice is, so usually if you've hurt yourself, you've got a little bit of swelling on your vocal folds. The easiest way to deal with swelling on your vocal folds is to stretch that out. So a good siren on an NG, I usually go sing, and then I'll siren up and down. It sounds like this, sing. That will usually, if you do that really, really, really softly, I'm doing it a little bit louder than I should, just so you will hear, but if you do that really, really softly, that will help with stretching out your vocal folds, making a really low sound, then a really high sound. That's really good for stretching out your vocal folds. Just like if you've got, a muscle that's torn from the gym, you stretch it out. Hydration. Now, because of that outer layer, the epithelium being highly dependent on hydration, the best way to ensure that your vocal damage is healed, or anything you do to your vocal folds is healed, is by getting hydration to your vocal folds. Water, the water you drink will take 24 hours to get to your vocal folds. A quicker way of doing this is with a steamer. You don't need to buy a steamer. You can have just a normal coffee cup of boiling water, of hot water, and then you create a little funnel and you breathe in the steam that way. That because that is, you're breathing that in, that is going directly past your vocal folds, and the hydration is getting straight to your vocal folds. Humidifiers are another way. There's a few other, I think, vaporizers. Asthmatics use those, which is really, really good for getting hydration to your vocal folds as well. Okay, this is the one that people hate. Anything that's going to leach moisture from your system is going to be bad for your voice. Coffee, black tea, alcohol. If I'm giving a talk like this, or I've got a whole day of teaching, I will not drink alcohol the night before. That is because that will dehydrate your system. They're diuretics, and that will leach moisture from your vocal folds. If you've hurt your voice, vocal rest is a really, really great idea. 24 hours if you've hurt your voice. 24 hours is the best. That's what the science says is the best way to heal your voice, or vocal rest. I had a colleague at work a couple of weeks ago. She blew her voice out yelling at year sevens one day, and the next day she actually had to take the day off work because she had to rest her voice. Okay, honey and lemon. Nothing you eat or drink will touch your vocal folds if you have a healthy or normal swallow. I repeat, nothing you eat or drink will touch your vocal folds. Honey and lemon will not help you if you hurt your voice. Apart from that, lemon is also highly acidic and has been linked to causing reflux. And get help sooner rather than later. The longer you leave it, the worse it will get. If you feel like none of these strategies are working, please get help. Here is a little video that I've made that I find really, really helps people understand why honey and lemon will not help them when they hurt their voice. Okay, so obviously if honey and lemon were to get to your vocal folds, you would choke and cough, and that would be bad for your voice. So onwards and upwards. Creating healthy habits. We've gotten to the really positive part. This is my favorite part. Okay, so as we've all heard, hydration, 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 hydration. However, steaming. If you have asthma, please see your doctor before you consider steaming. I know that that could be a problem. And these little steaming inhalers, they're from Basistos. I will show you on the next slide, so you can write down if you are interested in buying one. You can get them for under 20 bucks. Throw out the eucalyptus that comes with it. Do not steam eucalyptus. It is an irritant. It will hurt your vocal folds. Coffee, black tea, everything that's going to dry your vocal folds. Limit caffeine to once a day. Maybe switch to herbal tea. Smooth onsets, so starting your sentences with smoother onsets rather than really hard and aspirate onsets. Speaking with a full voice and not vocal fry. I have a lot of speech pathology lecturers that speak like this, and I cannot understand why, because they are supposed to be experts in the voice, and a lot of them will speak with vocal fry. So please just speak with a full voice. It's a little bit more energy, to speak with a full voice. It's a little bit more air. However, it's much healthier, and it will stop your voice from getting fatigued. Amplification. Now, music teachers are really can really easily access amplification because we've got band rooms, we've got amplifiers, we've got microphones hanging around. So if you're teaching a large band or a large choir or something like that, just plug in a mic into an amp, into a PA or something, and speak through that. That is much better for your voice than trying to yell over a 30-person choir, or trying to yell over really noisy instruments, especially if you're using your voice all day every day like most music teachers are. Vocal rest. Now, this is not the first time and this is not the last time that I have equated voice use with going to the gym. Your larynx is made up of muscles, and a lot of the time, if you are using, sorry, someone's got their mic on. It's just a bit distracting. If you could mute, please, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, so just like going to the gym, in between weight sets, you're supposed to rest your muscles. So same with you, like high stress, vocal stress moments. So if you're teaching for, all morning, the science says to have 20 to 30 minutes of vocal rest. That is optimal. So if you have all morning teaching, 20 to 30 minutes at your lunch break of vocal rest. Try not to speak during your lunch break. I know that's really hard, but if you give yourself 20 to 30 minutes of vocal rest, that is wonderful. Modifying your environment, getting the attention of your class before speaking, your band or whatever, that can be much easier than trying to yell over them. You could use a whistle or something else for grabbing attention. I know with my grade 5s and 6s, I just put my hand up and they all mostly try to behave and quieten down when I just stand there. And usually if you just give them the silent treatment for like 30 seconds, they realize that you're not speaking, and then they'll quieten down because they want to hear what you want to say. Loud air conditionings, open windows and doors, stuff like that, people in the next room banging about, all of that stuff. If you can modify your environment, that is a really good way of modifying the volume that you need with your voice. Posture, everybody knows about posture. Stretching before the race, very important. Athletes will stretch before a race. We need to warm up our voices before a full day of teaching. Those sirens that I was telling you about, there's a lot of information on vocal warm-ups for teachers online. If you do a Google search, you can get on YouTube and just warm up your voice for 5 minutes before the day. Now the next thing I'm going to say is about straw phonation. Now this is recent evidence that has come out that has found that speaking like ooh into 5 centimeters of water for 1 minute, just 1 minute a day. You've got to get a straw that's a thick boy. These ones are really great from any bubble tea store. I love bubble tea, so I've got 70 million of these straws. And so you can probably buy them from kitchen places as well, probably from Safeway. Saying ooh at comfortable pitch, most comfortable pitch, just speaking pitch, into 5 centimeters of water for 1 minute only a day will reduce the risk of vocal fatigue. That is recent evidence that has come out, and it's really effective. So that is the reason for this is because so if you're blowing air into into water, it creates something called back pressure, which will hold your vocal folds close together when they vibrate, so the rest of your muscles can get a break. They don't have to hold them tightly together. And it's really, really, really good for reducing vocal fatigue. And it's also a really good way to warm up. And also projecting safely. I'm going to teach you how to project safely very, very soon. Moving on. Okay, so this is a Bocistos steam inhaler if anyone is interested. And there are so many voice amplifiers on the market. I've heard of one called Chatterbox. There's also a few others on the market, and they're just little headsets, little radios that you can just put in a little bag on your body. Very effective. Great for that. Okay, considerations for online teaching. I thought I might include this, seeing as we're all stuck in lockdown at the moment. Now, I found the most important thing for me for online teaching is posture. A lot of the time, I'm looking at a screen like this. As you can see, all of these muscles get tight. All of them, they get tight and fatigued, and my voice gets really tired very, very fast. The optimal ergonomic experts say the optimal place to place your computer screen is to have the webcam at your eye level. So the little webcam dot is staring at your eye level, and that will make sure that your head is stuck on top of your neck, stuck on top of your back, and everything is, straight back, everything like that. This and this is going to cause muscle tension. Taking regular breaks, as I said before, your whole body is connected. Everything is connected. So if you've got a little bit of tension in your back, that's going to affect your voice. Everything's going to get tight. Have regular movement breaks, sitting, standing, stretching, everything like that. Check when you're teaching online, especially if I'm teaching a grade 5s and 6s 4 classes tomorrow, and I found that you can actually, on Microsoft Teams, on Zoom, you can actually turn the volume of them down, and you can turn your microphone up. Now that is really, really good, because if you're hearing a lot of volume and background noise coming at you, you're naturally going to be shouting into the computer, and you don't need to be shouting it into the computer, because you can turn your microphone up. It could be in the sound settings of your computers as well. Speaking at a comfortable pitch and loudness is obviously optimal, and if your voice is tired, rest it. It sounds very basic, but a lot of people do not rest their voice if they're tired. Usually after a Wednesday, my voice is so tired, and I just won't talk for a couple of hours while I get dinner ready and stuff like that. So if your voice is tired, rest it. Okay, so we're now getting on to the fun part where you all get to practice safe projection techniques. Now, a lot of these come from the work of Joe Still. So this is not my research, and they are very amazing ways to project your voice safely without hurting yourself. Let's get started. So before we start this section, I just want to let you know that so you saw the video of the vocal folds happening before. The general principle is thicker vocal folds equals more volume. More air does not equal more volume. The thickness of your vocal folds is directly proportional to the amount of volume you're going to get. So, saying that, here is a couple of videos of so this is looking at you front on. So if your vocal folds were here and we cut your face off and you cut your neck off, and we could see your vocal folds in here. Okay, so thick vocal folds, a lot of pressure gets built up. More pressure equals more volume. It's kind of like if you stop air, if you stop anything, if you stop any air coming through a space, it will eventually burst out. If you're adding pressure to something, it eventually bursts out. That's what happens when you have thick vocal folds. As you can see, Here with the cute little thin vocal folds, they are not closed for that amount of time. So the thicker your vocal folds, the longer the closed phase. The thinner your vocal folds, the quicker the closed phase, so the more air you're allowing out. So the pressure doesn't really build up with thin. So my mother is from England and she speaks like this and she cannot get any volume. So, and she wonders why I can't get any volume. It's because your vocal folds are really thin and the air pressure doesn't build up underneath it. Okay, so moving on. Next. Okay, so you've all heard of resting bitch face. I call this one resting bitch voice. This is basically, it's the easiest of the safe projection techniques. I know a lot of people that come from particularly quiet households when they've grown up, they speak like this. And this means this sound is a thin vocal fold sound. It means your vocal folds are really stretched and thin. And it's really, really hard to get any volume because the air pressure doesn't build up below the vocal folds. Speaking like this, however, can get a lot more volume because your vocal folds are closed for longer. So when I'm teaching this to people, I tell them it's a robot voice or a bogan voice. You can say, I usually say, just say after me, bad dog, bad dog. You're telling your dog off, he's done a poo on the carpet or something like that. Bad dog. Speaking like this is a lot more effective and you're going to get a lot more volume than speaking like this. And it's really safe because it's how most people speak anyway. Okay, it's the safest of the 3 projection techniques, as I've said, and it's most comfortable down low. You're not gonna get much up high because your vocal folds feel comfortable down low. So if you're gonna get more volume, comfortable pitches down low. If you want to get high, we're going to use the next technique that I'm going to teach you. Try not to take in a huge breath. As I said, it is building up pressure underneath your vocal folds. You don't want to increase the pressure more than is necessary because you'll end up hurting yourself. Okay, next technique. See if you can guess the technique from this video.
You, ow! You are being very rude.
No, I'm not. They're all being rude, and you're being rude.
Me? What did I do? Oh, Alex. Stop talking about space so much. Nobody likes it. I don't sound like that.
Okay. So twang. Twang is this voice quality. Twang is so the reason why it makes your voice seem louder is because it makes your vocal folds behave as though they're thicker. So this sound is in the 2 to 4 kilohertz range. For the people that like to get technical, that is the sympathetic resonant frequency of your ear canal. Therefore, it is perceived as up to 15 decibels louder than it actually is. It is more intense than your normal speaking voice because it resonates in your ear much more effectively. So I find that if I'm at a noisy bar and I'm trying to order drinks, if I order can I please have a vodka lime and soda? I can get the bartender's attention much easier than a lot of my friends, just because I'm using twang. I'm not using any more air, I'm not using any more effort, I'm just using twang. Okay, so twang is obviously that sound. If you want volume up high, that is the sound that you can use to get volume. You can also use it down low, but it kind of sounds like you're a bogan. I think that's all I have to say on twang. You can try it if you want to try with your mics switched off. Try or you can, babies use this a lot when they're crying to get attention because it's probably the loudest one of the loudest voice qualities that you can get. Okay, belting. Now, belting. Everybody's heard of belting for singers. Did you know that you can belt when you speak? This is the thickest your vocal folds are going to get. I won't explain the science of it to you because there's a whole bunch of technical words. However, your vocal folds are the back and the front of your larynx are the closest it's going to get. Therefore, your vocal folds are the thickest that you can get. This will cut through lots of noise. I find that with my grade 5s and 6s, if I'm teaching a keyboard class and they're being particularly misbehaving, a good "Oi!" will be enough to get their attention, cut through all their volume, and they're like, whoa, she wants our attention now. It's very, very important that you don't take in a huge breath. This vocal technique is very important to humans because it is used when when babies and kids are trying to get their parents' attention. It can be used when we're really scared and calling for help. If you're really scared and calling for help, you don't have time to take in a huge breath. You're just like, ah! So belting is a really, really good technique for getting lots of volume. However, the more you can't take in a huge breath because it will doubly increase that air pressure underneath and will hurt your vocal folds. If you take in a huge breath while you're trying to belt, you could trigger constriction of those false vocal folds that could interfere with that mucosal wave, the vibration of your vocal folds. So it needs to occur without gravel. So I usually go, I usually teach my students, oi, pass me the ball, come pass me the ball. You know, you're trying to get over a soccer field and your friend Tony, oi, Tony, pass me the ball. Or, you know, so that's belt. So today we've gone through signs and symptoms, bad habits, what to do when you've hurt your voice, what to do when you're sick, good habits, and we've learnt some safe projection techniques. Safe projection techniques, very, very important. Do everything without that gravel, okay? If you're feeling gravel in your voice, that is false vocal fold constriction, and that is going to hurt your vocal folds going forward. But how can we do this in the real world, you might ask? If you find that your school needs this, if you've got other teachers at school, if you've got other colleagues, we actually can come to the school and give this workshop. And it's really, really great in person because we get to try the safe projection techniques. I'm there, I can teach you how to do it, and I can listen to see if you're doing it safely. I also have two other ladies that work for the Voice Use Clinic, so you might get one of us, and we're all able to teach those safe projection techniques. We are also going to be running, hopefully in October, a safe projection techniques workshop. It will explain the science of how to produce those safe projection techniques, and it's a really safe environment, and it's it's a much more in-depth explanation and a much more in-depth get to try it and make sure you're doing it safely and without any constriction. If you've got a question, feel free that you don't want answered now, feel free, if you want to answer privately, to email contact@thevoiceuseclinic.com. If you've got a specific voice query, I know some people actually have, they've got a specific, my voice is hurting and I can't get it to stop, or I had a lady, she was, due to a childhood illness, she was actually stuck with a voice like this and she couldn't get any lower and she couldn't get any volume. So if you've got a question like that, a specific voice query, we offer free 30-minute Zoom consultations. So you can jump on our website, check out how to book one of those. And we also share voice care tips every month via our mailing list, and some voice nerdistry as well. Really cool voice facts that we find along the way. So if you're keen for voice care tips, or to stay on our mailing list to know when our Safe Projection workshop techniques workshop's going to be, or any other things that you just want to keep abreast of what's happening in the voice use clinic, please pop your email in the chat and we will add that to our mailing list, and we will let you know every month. So going forward, all of these, the whole workshop today is about avoiding dangerous habits and trying to implement healthy ones. It won't happen at once. You won't just go to work tomorrow and be like, oh, I've got a healthy voice now. It takes, mindful implementation every time you use your voice. When you go to reach for that 7th coffee of the day, go, oh, is that drying my vocal folds out? Stuff like that. Lozenges, throat lozenges, pet peeve, throat lozenges. Next time you go to reach for those, go, oh, that's probably not great for my voice. And just know, like, any throat lozenge or any throat spray that numbs your throat you're not going to feel any vocal damage when it happens. You're going to be more likely to damage your voice if that happens. So please avoid anything to do with numbing. And obviously the vocal mechanism is very, very complex. I couldn't teach you everything about it today. So if you want to stay abreast of and you want to know more, please do one of these steps or pop your email in the chat and we'll add you to the mailing list. I think, here's the references in case anyone is a fellow voice nerd like I. And if you have any questions, please unmute and ask, or we might go through the chat.
All right, Franca, thank you very much. If you could just stop sharing your screen, and then we'll go back to, there we are. We'll go back to the speaker view. Just a couple of questions. Roz and Jake had a question about what is the full extent of vocal rest? I guess how quiet and how long?
Oh, okay, cool. So usually in a day of teaching, so if I've got like a morning, I will rest. The science says to rest for about 20 to 30 minutes, and that's optimal. So it's just like, lifting weights. So you'll do your weight set, rest for a certain amount of time, and then you go on and do your next weight set. The science says 20 to 30 minutes of vocal rest. And if you hurt your voice, 24 hours of vocal rest. And that just means not speaking or trying to speak as little as you can. I take around a little notepad. I write notes to people. It's really easy in lockdown because you don't have to speak to anyone, but I usually will write notes to people if, if I'm going to the shop and I want something from the deli or something like that. Yep. So that's the answer to that. And
Penelope Latham, has your question about vocal fry been answered?
Sorry, yes. Sorry, vocal fry. So it's that Paris Hilton sound. Oh my God, that's vocal fry. So I probably should have put a video in there to make that clear. I'll do that for next time. But yeah, that's vocal fry. A lot of people. I actually had a client a couple of weeks ago that he spoke like this a lot of the time. He was a really relaxed dude, sort of a Byron Bay type.
Okay, Franca, does vocal fry happen when you lower your voice?
So what actually creates it is really, really low airflow. So there's not enough airflow to engage your vocal folds into a full voice. So it's just it's called it could be called slack folds or glottal fry. A lot of people call it glottal fry, and it just basically means that there's not enough air effort coming through your vocal folds to draw them into a proper vibration. So it's just a really slow vibration.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
And Catherine Slusher had an early question about asthma. Catherine, do you want to elaborate on your question about asthma?
Absolutely. Hello. Thank you so much. I've got so much to go back to my music department on. Thank you.
Oh, no worries. Thank you.
I do have asthma and I've been treating it for my entire life. It's not something that goes away. I avoid coughing as much as possible when it does happen. But I know you said that get it treated. What if it can't be treated?
I know I have read a little bit of evidence on because I had a in one of my workshops I had a lady that had chronic asthma, and she coughed a lot. So I did a bit of research and I found that asthma specialists can also recommend certain types of medications for cough. There are certain types of medications that can actually dampen the cough reflex in the brain. Obviously, asthma cough is different to a normal cough because a normal cough is an irritation near the vocal folds in the larynx, and an asthma cough is a thickening of the bronchi in the lungs. So, so it's a different type, but a lot of asthma specialists. I'm not an asthma specialist, so I can't recommend. But sorry, but I have read that some asthma specialists can actually. If you go to your asthma specialist, they might be able to recommend how to treat cough or make it less severe for you.
Yeah, that's something that tried, doesn't work.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
I'm a singer. I've got loads of new knowledge to go on, and I'm going to try and put in some healthy habits. So thank you.
No worries. Good luck with the cough. I can do some more research if you'd like. If you want to pop your email address, I can email you with any other findings that I find about asthma cough.
Yeah,
no worries.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Easy.
And a question from me, Franca. What's a bubble tea shop?
Oh, bubble tea. Oh, sorry. It's just about my favorite drink in the entire world. It's originated in Asia. It's basically tea, like black tea or green tea, with flavoring and little additives like jelly or pearls, or tapioca pearls and stuff. You can I'm in the reservoir, so you can get a lot of bubble tea around where I am. It's freely available around Box Hill and a lot of areas where you would find Asian restaurants. And so that's bubble tea, but they come with straws like this. Sorry, I'm just going to stop that dripping from my. They come with larger straws. A smaller straw is going to create more muscle tension in if you bubble with a smaller straw, it's going to create a bit of muscle tension from the back pressure. So the science recommends about a 6.5 millimeter. But if you go larger type straws, larger than a Macca straw, that will be good for your voice.